Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom. Bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam, yai da 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 bim bam, bim 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 bam, bim 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 bam. Good Shabbos.
Good Shabbos, everyone. If you want to wave to someone in another aisle and, wink or introduce yourself or yell out a name. And those online, of course, introduce yourself and tell us where you're watching from and how much you miss being in the sanctuary. Just saying from the start, next week a very special service in person and online, of course. But our friend Alan Goodis will be here with Cantor, a music Shabbat, with an oneg that will bundle up. We'll go outside and take our masks off and have a little nosh together after services. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. We have some control in that department, and we're working on it now and seeing what we can do. But it will be nice to be together. And what's that? Oh, yeah, fire pits as well. That's right. So it'll be nice, and we'll see how it goes. Like, come on. We're Michiganders. We're resilient. We're tough. Thank you. Are you laughing at how resilient and tough we actually are? Come on. There will be warming beverages as well, whatever those might be. So, but now let's enjoy this week's Shabbat, this time together, as we see a blessing in coming together as a community and sharing in this and saying, Hine ma tov manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. How good it is that we can come together, we can dwell together, and do so in peace.
Hine ma tov manayim, shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov shevet achim gam yachad. Hine ma tov u'manayim, 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 shevet achim gam yachad. Shevet achim gam yachad.
So as we prepare for our Shabbos worship, we begin with the lighting of the Shabbos candles. We begin in setting this time as unique in our lives, as special in our lives. And tradition is, before Shabbat begins, right beforehand, we light the candles. And we recognize that as a way to mark time, as a way to, in a sense, bring light into our world. And so we use that as something we can focus on in this moment.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat. Amen.
So with the lights dimmed a little, and the flames of the Shabbat tapers bringing a little light into our world, so I asked us to think about this idea of time in our lives and how our perspective can bring light into what we do. Personally, I've been thinking about time in a different context in a number of ways. When you take a trip and you're numbers of hours away from home, you have to be aware of what time it is here and what time it is there and what that represents in our lives. But something unique happened to me because being in Europe last week, when daylight savings time clocks fell back last Saturday night, and I gained an hour then, so coming home yesterday and celebrating that and honoring that tomorrow, I gain another hour. So I get 2 extra hours this week. And I thought, well, that's different. That's unique. Look how that, what will we do with 2 extra hours? And I was talking to a friend about that, and he says, you're not getting any extra time. It's just that we change our clocks. And how weird that is, and what does that mean? Is anything really different in our lives in changing our clocks and the perspective it gives? Yet, we mark our day, we mark these days by what we see on the clock. We know we show up here, we turn on our computer, our televisions, at 6:30 services begin. But then I thought, if you turn on to YouTube and look at the Shir Shalom channel, you'll see the numbers go up as the night goes on, because some people aren't home from work yet and are going to log on and watch a recording of the service and say the prayers with us then, and that's okay. Because time is sort of amorphous. It is what we make of it and what we create in it and what we recognize it. I always wear a watch. I'm always aware what time it is. I'm always aware that I'm always late as well. But it's still being, Sandy Miji's agreeing with me on that one. You know that feeling. And so we're in the same boat, don't worry. But that idea of what time does for us. So do we have an extra hour or 2 hours? Or is it just a clock that tells us this? Another interesting tidbit I noticed this week, I learned this week, there are 1,500 plus clocks in the Royal Palace, the residence of the British monarchy in London. And there's a man, his job is to change all the clocks and maintenance all the clocks during the rest of the year as well. It's really easy in the spring. 2 gentlemen can go and turn all the clocks, forward quickly. Turning them back takes a whole team of individuals of a dozen, because it takes so much work to reorient those clocks and all the mechanism. And of course, they have some of the greatest grandfather clocks and other clocks in the world of many different mechanisms and intricacies. And the challenge is that, and what does it mean to watch a clock and what time means, and recognizing that. And so, Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, the philosopher of the 20th century that taught us so much, always refers to Shabbat as an island in time. I'm sure some of us walk in here or turn on our services and think, wow, it was just yesterday we were observing Shabbat. It feels like it was just a moment ago we were together. And I can even think of 2 weeks ago when we were together, since I wasn't here last week, and it feels like not long ago at all, and how quickly time goes. But by marking time, we're able to appreciate what there is in our life. By pausing and noticing time has continued on, but by stilling ourselves for a moment, we can appreciate the blessings that are there. We can appreciate what we want to have as blessings in our life. We can appreciate that which we need to appreciate, that we might take for granted in all the other days of our week as well. And so we have this time. And yes, some of us relish the fact of an extra hour sleep or an extra hour to whittle away or to read or do whatever we might be doing. But the blessing is the time in this moment of Shabbat right now. The blessing we give to ourselves as a moment to reflect, a moment to breathe in deep, a moment to sense community, to sense being together, to notice a little more. So with these lights dim now, I ask you to, maybe even close your eyes and take a deep breath. Breathe in God's gift to each and every one of us. And breathe out our gift to this world. Recognizing not just the gifts we received, the goodness that we can feel, the light that has been brought into our lives by being together, but how much we do for each other, how much goodness we can share in our world, how much kindness is there that we're able to experience, that we're able to transmit, that we're able to feel. In doing that, we sanctify time. In doing that, we find the blessing that we create together. We find the goodness that we share as a people.
שבת אחים גם יחד, הנה מה טוב ומה נעים, שבת אחים גם יחד, שבת אחים גם יחד. שבת אחים גם יחד.
And so, with that in mind, can we come together as a community, both here in person and from afar, and join in our prayers and our Kaya service and our call to worship, our Baruch Hu. And if you can, you'd like to rise, so can we join together standing as one.
ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו, לעולם ועד. ברוך שם כבוד מלכותו, לעולם ועד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי ניצבך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם ושבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם להיות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
The next prayer that we join together under the words of the Hashkivenu, a prayer that asks that when we lie down to sleep tonight, that God watch over us, that God protect us, protect our souls, and that tomorrow morning when we wake up to life renewed, refreshed, ready to fulfill our mission. In reading about the origins of the Hashkivenu this week, there's a connection that the rabbis of the Talmud made to the prayer that comes traditionally just before it, to the words of what we often think of as the Michamocha, but really a prayer known as the Geula, talking about our redemption and our freedom. And they link the two because, as we sing with the Michamocha, celebrating the miracle of our Exodus, the miracle of the sea splitting and the Israelites being able to walk through our escape from slavery to freedom, they thought about what happened those nights, or the night leading up to that preceded that miraculous event. And on that night, and leading up to it, there was darkness, the slaying of the firstborn. And tradition says that there was darkness for a period of 3 days for the Egyptians, but the Israelites were still able to experience light during the day. But that they realized what the Egyptians were going through with that plague of darkness. And because of that, the rabbi said, that's why we have this prayer which follows, this prayer of the Hashkivenu. That sometimes we don't know what comes that night, what will come the following morning, if we'll wake up or not. And so these words were that reminder, a prayer to petition God, to hope that we too can wake up to life renewed and refreshed. As I read those words, I turned to one of our movement's newer prayer books, Mishkan Tefillah. And in there I found a poetic translation, a creative alternative to the words that we sometimes use, but equally as meaningful. And so I'll read the English as we prepare to hear these words and sing with cantor. Let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lay down in peace tonight and rise up ready to do your will.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom ve'amidenu malkeinu l'chaim. Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom ve'amidenu שלום מעתה ועד עולם. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום ועמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום ועמידנו מלכנו לחיים. ושמור צאתנו ובואנו לחיים ושלום מעתה ועד עולם. מעתה ועד עולם השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום ועמידנו מלכנו לחיים. השכיבנו אדוני אלוהינו לשלום ועמידנו מלכנו לחיים.
In preparation for the Amidah, we rise together now for a moment of silent meditation, following the prayers of our hearts. Please rise.
The thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering the song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day, and eternity utters a day. Thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind, joy in the trees. Shabbat has arrived in the world, scattering the song in the silence of the night, and eternity utters a day. Yes, eternity utters a day. Adonai siftai tiftachu fi agid tehilatecha. Eternal God, Open up my lips that my mouth may declare your glory. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avoteinu ve'Imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak ve'Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Leah ve'Elohei Rachel האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר. מי כמוך בעל גבורות, ומי דומה לך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישוע, ונאמן אתה להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
And so as we gather together on Shabbat, so is Torah a part of our learning, a part of our study, a part of our community. So is Torah a source of our strength and a source of our hope, especially as we connect that to those who are in need of healing and strength with our prayers of Mishaberach. As we walk around with the Torah, mentioning names out loud, those friends and family we think of, touching the Torah, connecting with that, so do we hope, and so we gain with millions, thousands of years of tradition, we gain that strength that has come from Torah, from the wisdom, and from our ancestors. Mishaberach Avotenu, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, Imotenu, Sarah, Kolev, Rachel. Hu Yivarech et Cholim, merciful God, who's blessed our ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Leah, and Rachel. Send your blessings to our loved ones who are stricken with illness and anxiety, especially those friends and family we think of at this time. Alyssa Ioto and Doreen Billett, Rachel Brewer, Michael Brody, Larry Burke, Karen Kasman, Patty Seresny, Molly Cotant, Barbara Esrig, Sandy Flair, Ashley Goldberg, Batia Pesha Panina, Ty Hall, Andrew Halo, Hank Heiser, Jerry Hoffman, Rhonda Hoffman, Jane Jacobs, Jamie Kay, Myrna Klein, Serafina Coffrin, Karen Coltono, Marta Lazar, Henry Leopold, Louis McIntyre, Zoe Marcus, Joyce Maza, Allison Mertzman, Lev Hershelman Bat Ami, Perry Moss, Lori Moss, Moshe Ben Moshe, Scott Miles, Rabbi Robert Nosenchuk, Rezel Bat Leah Miriam, Leah Elisheva Bat Avram Bachana, Patty O'Callahan, Casey Pearson, Annette Pines, Eileen Porcelli, Melanie Pohl, James Raftery, Joanne Reed, Alan Rosen, Bruce Rubin, the St. Amman family, Micha Chuna Ben Sima Freda, Amy Selmanoff, Rita Seidman, Danny Shepard, Bernard Sklar, Roberta Sonino, Barbara Storm, David Wolf, Elaine Wolf, all those battling the coronavirus, and all the names that we hold in our hearts. Baruch atah Adonai Cholim. Bless you, God, give strength to those.
לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. משתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
Nothing can fill the emptiness that a death leaves behind. Those who are no longer a physical presence are still alive within our thoughts and our words. Their memories are only a part of the picture. So long as we recall their presence, then their warmth, their friendship, their heart, mind, and thought are still within our souls. We honor and cherish the ones we love by living our lives to the fullest. So on this Shabbat, we think of those friends and family who have been taken from us in these most recent days. Shiva, Shloshim, Shana we mark. Irene Light, Robert Epstein, Joseph Goldring, Mark Scarr, Ronald Cohen, Helene Davidson, Bobby Zucker, Ira Shapiro, Jan Brody, the 4,586 Americans of our armed forces who have been killed in Iraq and the surrounding areas to date, and the 752,091 Americans who have lost their lives to the coronavirus. And to their names we add those whose yahrzeits we mark, those of whose anniversary of passing we lovingly commemorate. Gladys Baskin, Erwin Bergman, Rabbi Ernst Conrad, Mayor Eisenberg, Dora Eisenberg, George Fisher, Joseph Foster, Carol Frank, Henry Frank, Fran Goldstein, Ozzie Goodman, Harriet Terry Greenberg Waddlet, Sam Hoffman, Patricia Jacobs, Charles Kominarski, Rose Konikow, Josephine Kraus, Fred Linden, Bernice Lynn, Beatrice Malone, Douglas Arthur Moss, Howard Reinitz, Ernie Scher, Diane Snyder, Shirley Ruth Steinberg, Shelley Sturman, Evelyn Diane Swartz, Alexander Surtees, Richard N. Varon, Harvey Theodore Wexler, Eleanor Zimmerman, along with all the names in our hearts, and those who have no one to say Kaddish for them. Do we join together in the immortal words of the mourner's Kaddish as found on page 46 of our prayer books, praising God for the gift of life. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, be'almad divrach hirtei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon uv'yomachon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uv'izman kariv v'imru. Amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach le'olam omei omaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudusha b'richu, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, huya say shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn. Comfort to all the bereaved among us here and everywhere. As together we say, Amen.
Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru, imru, amen. Yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, yaseh shalom, yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Good Shabbos, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
In a moment, we'll take some time for some tish, and so for those of you who are watching online, feel free to take a moment if you have a question to post that in the chat. For those of you that are watching on YouTube, we're watching that one as well, so that you can put that in there, and we'll be happy to try and work those into our tish questions this evening. A few announcements as we get ready for that, because I know there's a short delay for those that are watching online as well. But we have a few, as Rabbi shared, a few special things that are coming up. Rabbi mentioned next week our musician in residence, Alan Goodis, is going to be joining us and will help Cantor and us lead services with some beautiful music, and we'll be sharing some new songs as well that he's written. That will be at 7:30. 7:30 is the service, and then following that is the oneg. And just to help us out with figuring out how much food to be able to have prepared, we are asking for those that would like to stick around and be a part of it, the oneg afterwards, to RSVP by calling the office or filling out the form online. Even if you don't do that, there'll be plenty of food. Don't worry, but it helps us out and make sure that we're not wasting food.
And
gives
drink,
us
too.
A number of that as we do that too.
What you thinking?
On Saturday evening, though, as well, we're trying another Spirit and Spirits. And so Alan and clergy will be traveling around town, starting in Farmington Hills, I believe, at 5 o'clock. I think in Rolling Oaks neighborhood, and then at 5:45 in West Bloomfield, 6:30 in Birmingham, and 7:15 in Huntington Woods for a quick 20-minute Havdalah, schmooze, a few songs, some spirits, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic.
Why do I feel like it's awkward that I'm driving from community to community with bottles in my car? Is that a bad message?
In the trunk, Rabbi.
In the trunk, right. It's not New Orleans. It's not like... Open and carry is different in the Jewish community. That's right.
So some fun things there. And then we also have coming up on Wednesday night our trivia night. And I know that some of our friends are watching.
Is it this week or next week?
The 10th. So it's this upcoming Wednesday.
It's not the 17th?
Second Wednesday of each month. Except for December. We're going to change that date. But
Okay. Interesting.
the 10th at 8 o'clock. And I know that there's some fierce competition for that and some teams that are already signed up. And it is a lot of fun. It's a really enjoyable evening, and we have a good time. So if you want to be a part of that, you can sign up in the office or online as well for that. And I'll also share one other thing that's coming up in a couple weeks just to get people ready for it as well. We have a Lunch and Learn series that Rabbi Moskowitz is going to be teaching, L'chaim, a Jewish view of living and doing. So it's starting November 22nd. It's a Monday, 4 Mondays in a row from 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock to enjoy some time together and some teach.
Philosophy. Discussions, conversation, thinking, living, and doing. And so now, your questions of anything. Yes?
Because Opportunity spoke of the change of time this weekend. I was wondering, since the Jewish lunar calendar has an extra Adar 2 month thrown in every few years, or however many years,
Yeah.
how does the Torah portion accommodate that?
So the question was, thank you, was with the changing of time and thinking of that linked to the changing of our calendars, and the Jewish calendar has a leap year by adding a whole month every few years. There's a whole formula the rabbis invented 2,000 years ago plus to figure out 4, 7, 9, 11, whatever.
7 out of every 19 years.
7 out of every 19 years. You could do the calculations. And so, because the lunar calendar is 354 and a half days long, and so to make up that time so that our Passover celebration isn't in, November, we add a whole extra month, the second month of Adar, on these leap years in the Jewish calendar. So with that in mind, how do we account for Torah portions, since every week gets its own unique Torah portion? And a very simple answer for that Rabbi is going to tell you right now.
That every week doesn't actually get its own Torah portion. There are over 50 parshiot that we have to be able, 54 parshiot to be able to divide up over the course of the Hebrew calendar year. And what happens is, as Rabbi referenced and Richard was asking, it's often the case where we don't have that many weeks in a year. And so we have double portions. So we'll have 2 portions that we'll read for a week, and for us on Shabbat, that we combine together. Most years, there are portions that are combined. Tazria Mitzora, some of our favorite ones, we put together and try and get through that really quickly as we're going through. It's one about leprosy and skin diseases and pusses and all sorts of other things. But that was our way of doing that. And on a year where we need more Shabbatot and more weeks, then we have enough Torah portions is the way that it's divided to be able to have one each week as we go through. Every once in a while, because of that, we get thrown onto a different calendar because of the way that we celebrate holidays as well in the diaspora as the Reformed community versus sometimes our diaspora friends that have a more traditional celebration and celebrate 2 days of the holidays. And so when that happens, sometimes that holiday might fall on a Shabbat as well, and there's a festival reading that would be done. And so usually sometime in the spring around Passover, we might be off for a week or 2 with some of our neighbors, but then we quickly catch back up too.
It's 3 of those double portions happen in Leviticus, and I think 1 in Exodus. I was trying to do it off the top of my head if I could, because I know, right? So, no, it's 1.
Acharei Kedoshim,
Bahar Behukatai, and Tazria Mitzora.
Yeah.
And then one in Exodus is one of the last portions of Exodus, I think, but I don't know. Next question. Moving right along.
March, I had a question asking if next week we're coming to Commerce. The closest we're coming to Commerce is Farmington Hills, so we couldn't get to all the different cities that are, or West Bloomfield, but that'll be closer to here.
Yes.
So.
Sandy. How will you know where? You have to once you register, we'll let you know. So
this week on Wednesday, you'll get an email, because some of them are people's homes addresses, so we didn't want to just publish that
we're not broadcasting
online.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why. We'll make sure you let you know. Awesome. She's really nice. And if you haven't met Alan and heard his music, it's something very special that we get to enjoy together. And he's been coming to us, I don't know, past 5 years, 6 years or so, joining our congregation and becoming a part of what our kids know and our at Shoresh and what we get to experience and enjoy together. So, yeah.
Rabbi Audrey Kahn online wants to know, when did you know that you wanted to become a rabbi?
When did I know?
She said actually for both rabbis.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I think I knew before Rabbi Daniel did.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Thanks, Audrey. Yeah. You know, I decided definitively when I was a junior in college living in Scotland at the University of Edinburgh, and the absence of Judaism in my life at that time, even though I was doing a politics program in Scotland and preparing for going to law school potentially, the absence of Judaism in my life made me realize it was the unifier for all the things that I love doing. And at one point in a conversation with my parents, I said, well, next year when I apply to rabbinical school, and my mom's like, oh, really? So I guess that's when it was definitive in my mind. But, you know, because I was, like most kids, thinking of a lot of things, but as a fifth grader, my mom says I came home saying I wanted to be a rabbi. But I think at that age I wanted to be a veterinarian. So, which I still want to be, actually. So that's basically it. Rabbi, and you?
Fascinating that you said fifth grade, because fifth grade for me as well, my rabbi of blessed memory, Eric Bram, was with me on the porch of Temple and asked what I wanted to do when I was older, and I said I wanted to be a teacher, and he said a rabbi is all like being a teacher, but you get to do all these other wonderful things. And I didn't at that point say I wanted to be a rabbi, but he was the one that planted a seed. And then throughout my high school, college, as I was looking at colleges, wanted to make sure that I had a place where I could learn Hebrew, so it was still in the back of my mind as I was doing different things. But when did I definitively say that? I think it was when I was in Columbus, Ohio, thanks to Rabbi Howard Apotheker at Temple Beth Shalom in New Albany, who brought me in to work as an intern. And I was able to experience what life was like for a rabbi behind the scenes and see things. And he really allowed me to flourish there and have a lot of fun. And so I applied to rabbinical school while I was working as an intern in Columbus, and that's when I knew that I didn't want to be a student. But
I would think if someone showed me what it's like behind the scenes to be a rabbi, I might say, okay, I'm going to be a veterinarian. Maybe. I don't know. But we both were blessed to have great rabbinic role models as children, as young adults, at camp, who I think were formative in our realizing all the opportunities the rabbinate could provide for us and why we wanted to do that. So, well, as we approach the conclusion of our services, let us rise together. We give thanks for the sweetness of our time together as we sing the blessing over the wine.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei peri hagafen.
Amen.
L'chaim.
I am. And so we ask God to bless all of us as a community as we join together in these closing words.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you. May God protect you.
Yair Adonai panav elecha v'choneka.
may God shine upon you, and may God shine through you.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yisim lecha shalom.
May God always be a part of who we are as individuals, as a community. giving us all of our hopes and all of our blessings. Most of all, the blessing of shalom, of peace in our heart, in our mind, and our ability to bring more peace into our world.
Vayasem lecha shalom.
Shabbat shalom, everyone.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.